Today is Silent Saturday. It's the quiet day in between the two loudest days in human history. Friday, God spoke through the cross, and Sunday, he spoke through the empty tomb. But Saturday feels silent. It feels still and uncertain. Today, we're going to look at something that happened on that quiet day, the sealing of the tomb and the guards placed outside of it. Out of all four gospel accounts, Matthew is the only one who tells us what happened that Sabbath between Jesus' death and resurrection. And the details he gives us are actually incredibly important for us. We find it in Matthew 27:62 through 66. The next day, that is after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember how the impostor said while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore, order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people he has risen from the dead. And the last fraud will be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard of soldiers. Go and make it as secure as you can." So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard. Now here's what stands out to me immediately. It's the unbelievers, the Pharisees, who remember what Jesus said that he would rise again on the third day. Now, the religious leaders were afraid of the resurrection, not because they believed Jesus could actually rise from the dead, because they didn't. They were afraid the disciples would steal the body away and fake the resurrection. So they did everything they could from a human standpoint to shut down the whole thing. They went to Pilate, they asked for guards, they sealed the stone at the tomb, and they made sure it was as secure as possible, placing Roman soldiers outside. But here's the irony. In trying to prevent a resurrection story from spreading, they actually strengthened the credibility of the resurrection. Think about it. Nowhere in the Gospels do we see the disciples plotting to fake anything. They're actually hiding, afraid, scared, and grieving the death of Jesus. They don't look like men who are ready to craft a hoax. And even if they had tried to steal the body, Roman guards and a sealed tomb would have made that nearly impossible. Even the risk alone would have been overwhelming. So, without realizing it, these religious leaders have set the stage for one of the greatest confirmations of the resurrection. By placing guards at the tomb and sealing the stone, they eliminated the easy explanations. They removed the possibility of a casual grave robbery. They ensured that there were witnesses there at the tomb. They made it clear that if the stone was moved, it wasn't because of a few fearful disciples overpowering trained soldiers. In their attempt to stop God's plan, they actually provided evidence that God was at work. They thought they were securing a grave, but they were really securing a miracle. The stone was never there to keep Jesus in like they intended. It was there so that when it moved, no one could deny what God had done. And I love this because it shows us something powerful about who God is. God is so sovereign that even his opposition ends up serving his purposes. The very people who rejected him became part of the confirmation of his greatest act in history. And all of this happened on a silent Saturday. And I think the truth is, for a lot of us, we live in a sort of silent Saturday. We live in the in-between, between promise and fulfillment, between prayers and answers, between heartbreak and restoration. For the disciples at this point, they thought it was completely over. God was quiet, heaven felt silent, nothing looked like it was moving. But just because God is silent doesn't mean that he is absent. And just because nothing looks alive doesn't mean that God isn't working. Saturday teaches us that God is still working in the silence. The religious leaders thought they were in control. They sealed the tomb to stop God's plan, and instead they secured it. What they meant for control out of fear, God used for confirmation. So what do we do when we find ourselves in a season that feels like a silent Saturday? When we don't hear from God, when things seem uncertain? Well, we stay faithful in the silence. We trust that God is working even when we don't see movement. We resist the urge to grab control out of fear, and we remember what Jesus taught, even when circumstances look final or finished. If you're in a Saturday season right now, don't lose heart, because Sunday is indeed coming. The same God who walked out of the sealed tomb is still working behind sealed stones in your life, and the silence is not the end of the story.
Thanks so much for tuning in for our Holy Week Devotionals. We will be posting videos daily here on YouTube and Facebook over the course of Holy Week as a resource for you to dig deeper into this familiar yet earth-shattering story. If you learned something or this video was impactful for you, like this video or leave a comment below. Your engagement goes a long way in helping us share this gospel message with others online. If you like what you hear and want to learn more, visit our YouTube channel or website where you'll have access to our entire archive of sermon videos. See you next time.